Hey, we're here with another episode of On the Road with the Franchise, and look who I got, Mr. Extreme himself. I'm so excited about this one because like I was telling a mutual friend, we won't use names, we'll say a mutual friend of ours, and was telling him, anytime you put any of the ECW family in the same room, this stuff just sort of writes itself because we have so much shared experience. But I mean, let's just get right into it. Starting at the beginning, like, what brought you to professional wrestling?
Me, my older brother, and my stepdad watching wrestling when I'm literally 4 or 5 years old watching, because all we got was WWWFA, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dude, I had to be in front of the TV every Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and then every Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock.
I'm curious, because I watched the WWF on Studio Wrestling in Pittsburgh. Was it a local show?
Yeah, because they were always doing. They would tape down in Philadelphia, 42nd and Market, and then they might do like Allentown or like Hamburg. They would do some taping there. So that was most of all the stuff I saw when I was younger. Until of course then cable came along and stuff like that. But like my first wrestling show, my older brother took me to. 15, 16 years old, and we're down in not so good of a part of section of Philly where they used to tape, but I just remember the main event was like Dusty Rhodes, Mil Mascaras, and somebody else against the Samoans and Don Morocco, dude, and it was the greatest thing ever to be, because there was no guardrails up there and stuff. The guys just walked right by you like it was nothing, you know what I mean? And then I was just totally hooked, and then I was going every month to the Spectrum.
Yeah, in Philadelphia, obviously, like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the old WWF territory was like Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, you know, up in Rochester, that sort of up into Buffalo, Boston. So, you know, they would loop through there. Those guys would jump in the car and they would loop right around, and that's why Dominic and Bruno had settled in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure there are probably a lot of wrestlers that live close to you.
Dude, I would have thought that too, but there's like, I don't know. Back then, well, first of all, nobody even would have known back then because we don't all have computers in our pocket and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean, like was Special Delivery Jones from Philadelphia?
They said he was from Philly, but I don't know if if he lived there or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I didn't. But dude, I wish they all lived around me. Maybe I would have got into it.
Well, the only way I even knew that Dominic was, well, and we all knew Bruno lived in the area, right? But you know, because they said from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I had no idea Dominic did because they announced him from Italy, and we did the backyard. It must be the world's first backyard wrestling show. It was 1978. My friends and I built that ring, and after a couple of weeks of fooling around, got bored with it and thought, what could we do? And remember when we were kids, they used to ask kids to throw a backyard carnival, raise a few bucks and send it into muscular dystrophy. So we decided to do a backyard wrestling show and went to the local chapter in Beaver County, north of Pittsburgh. And a woman there, her name was Angeline Paparella, an incredibly courageous woman. I love to talk about her when I get the chance because she was, I'm guessing late 50s, early 60s. Had been a nurse, contracted adult onset muscular dystrophy. She was completely immobile, but could move a few fingers. And I think she was so enamored by the fact that these punk kids that, 14, 13 years old wanted to raise money. So a few days after we met with her, I guess to get her blessing, she called me up and she said, hey, there's a wrestler that lives locally. He's an Italian guy. I said, Bruno Sammartino. She said, no, it's not Bruno. And then she fumbled with Dominic's name. She said, Dominuni. I said, Dominic DeNucci? And he was the world tag champion. She said, yeah, he lives nearby here. And she said, if he's in town that day, he may stop by. Well, that's how we ended up meeting Dominic and got my foot in the door. So I'm curious, like after being a fan of those shows in Philadelphia and, being hooked by it like we all got, what took you from being a fan to taking that step into
Here we go. So it's my first I had no idea what an independent show was, dude.
Right.
I'm reading the Bill Apter magazines and stuff like that, but I'm seeing all these wrestlers and they could have been freaking Houdini himself to me because I had no access to see them live. They were just some of these pictures and a bunch of writing, you know what I'm saying? So we go to see, I think it might have been I would say it could have been Andre in the steel cage against Big John Studd. It might have been that night. Whatever it was like it was '89, and we come outside and we find this little leaflet on our windshield wiper,
Sure.
and we're both like, "Oh my God, what is this? We gotta go to this
Golden
thing,
ticket.
Bruno San Martino," and it was a small venue down at a college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So dude, that still gives me fucking goosebumps. I get out of the fucking car, and wouldn't you believe it? Who's standing right next to me gets out of his car too? Bruno San Martino.
No kidding. Wow.
Dude, I was hooked. And I was hooked right then. Oh, dude, I was even hooked before then. But once I saw him, like that close, you know what I mean? Like a real person, I don't know, maybe something was clicking in my head. But then I go in and I see the first match, and I'm like, dude, you got to remember, back in those days, the WWF was a land of the giants.
Right, sure.
These dudes were big.
Yeah.
But these indie guys, I'm like, I'm going to my buddy Ruben. I'm like, yo, Ruben, I can do this. He goes, I know you can. I gave Joel Goodhart like $3,500 like 2 days later. I want to say the date was March 6th, actually, my birthday, my Kelly, my daughter's birthday. And I gave him $3,500, and
How
then
old were you at this point?
like 27, 28.
Wow,
Yeah, I was
old.
old. Yeah, dude, we didn't. There was no indies. There was no nothing. I got so lucky with that avenue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and obviously I was older. And so then literally I trained 4 nights a week, and my Ty was coming down. My oldest son Ty, he was like super infant, like less than a year old.
Yeah.
Peaches was coming down with me. Kelly was coming down with us, and we all did it as like a family thing. It was like me, Goodhart, JT Smith, Larry Winters.
Right.
And lo and behold, by June 9th, I'm having my first match at Bonner High School, a place right around the corner from where I grew up at.
Wow. And where was this? Where was the school?
The school was in Northeast Philadelphia.
Okay. So when you got to this school, was there? Like, first of all, who did the training at the school? Was it Joe Barker?
No, Joe. No, it was lab. Well, most of my training was done by a guy named Larry Winters and Rock and Rebel. Some Johnny Hotbody in there, JT Smith, who I worked with a lot, had a lot of my first matches with. Even guys back to like CN Reds knew a little bit more than I did then. Jimmy Genetti's knew a little bit more than I did. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit, a mix of a lot of shit, but mostly all your stand-up switches and all that shit was fed to me by Larry. But after that, it was away from him and more like me and the Rebel.
And what year was this?
90.
Okay. So
it's 89, 90 right here.
yeah. So then there's the early '90s, and you're dabbling around the independent scene in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
Joel. Yeah. We weren't doing many shows. Maybe he had like 6 a year, but he would have some big ones. Like he would bring in your Abdul the Butchers that nobody ever saw around here and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He was supposed to bring in Ric Flair, and then that's when all the shit hit the fan, and then whatever happened, and then Todd, which ended up taking over, which was probably the best thing for all of us.
And that early part of Eastern Championship Wrestling, I'm really sketchy on, because I didn't get there till '93. So give me some history on that early ECW. Like, what year did it start? Was it Joel Goodhart that started it?
Yeah. Joe Goodhart used to have a wrestling show on WIP, 610 WIP. He would have a wrestling show on Saturday mornings that we would tune into. And then he started having some shows like, stuff that we were doing last night. We were literally in a parking lot.
Right.
I'm pretty damn sure the very first show I was ever at for Joel Goodhart was in a parking lot. And then we'd have another one in a parking lot here. And then he'd find like a small building here, but we weren't like branching out yet. But he'd like 3 shows a year we would do in a big building like the Philadelphia Civic Center or something like that.
Now, I'm curious, with while you were training, because I know, like at Dominic's school, you had Mark Curtis, of course, who passed away, Brian Hildebrand, Mick Foley, obviously, Cody Michaels. I mean, Dominic had a ton of people there, 20, 30 students at one time. I remembered vividly, like Mick and Cody and Brian and all of us talking, and we knew we were okay for like local stuff, But like watching the guys on TV, I remember watching like Bret Hart was like what I was watching around that time, and thinking like, we're okay for this, but those guys are great. And in my head, I could never envision myself being in a ring with those guys. Like, was it the same way for you guys?
Dude, what are you kidding me? And I got so lucky, literally. Like my mind's blown. I got to in my first 10 matches. I worked with Superfly Stuka, Ivan Koloff, Nikolai Volkov, and a couple other guys that were famous that I didn't remember.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, a couple months later, I'm in Memphis working main events with Jerry Lawler. In the business for 6 months.
Now, see, I didn't even know you had gone to Memphis. Really? Was it like for 6 months run?
No. It was a 3-month run because my wife was back home with the kids and she couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? So I got in there. Lawler seen me work. The first week they put me over. All right, so everybody, if you ever see a picture of me in a surfboard. I'm not in a surfboard, I'm such an idiot. Carrying a surfboard with the wetsuit, hey dude, surf's up. That all became because Jerry Lawler talked to Joel Goodhart and said, listen, I want you to send me 2 guys, but I want them to have gimmicks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, my head went right to the surfing thing, and JT ended up becoming this black cat dude. So that's where the whole surfing board idea came was from. I needed something to bring down to Memphis with me. Yeah. So I get down there. First week, I don't even remember. Oh, dude, this fucking story. And you know how small the Memphis TV fucking studio. I mean, dude. Yeah. See this? This is bigger than that whole studio, right? So I go in there. I'm like, I'm full of piss and vigor right here. You know what I'm saying? I'm feeling it a little bit. I mean, I'm scared shitless, but so it's me, Emery, and one of Doug. I forget his name, or Bart Sawyer. It might have been. One of Piper's, he was always around with Piper, against Lawler and 2 other guys that I don't remember. We went to the ring with nothing. I was shitting myself. I'm like, dude, how are we going to the ring and I don't know the finish? I don't know the start. But that's just how it was with like Eric and Lawler. They just go out there, it's TV, they just work it out. Sure. So I'm like, all right. So I'm facing this way. I go up to Eric, I said, I want to start the match. He goes, okay. I turn around, fucking Lawler standing across the ring from me. I'm like, boy. And what I did, I went back to, what the hell do you know? Went up, kicked him, told him to reverse it, give me a big back chop, took a powder. Fucking Eric goes, get the fuck back in the ring now, kid. I got back in the ring. Don't forget what happened right after that. But that was my first experience with Lawler and why I had the wetsuit and all that stuff.
Wow. So that was going to be one of my questions. Like, where did the surfer gimmick come from? Because in the early ECW, I remember you having that for 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I come back from USWA, and now Paul Heyman's got the book. It's kind of when I left, it was Eddie Gilbert and shit, whatever. With Eddie.
So it was in that time when Eddie was there, you went to Memphis?
Yeah.
Wow. So this is why I love doing these interviews, because you hear all this stuff that, like, you know, to me, like, it's like a ball of information of ECW, right? And then, like with Curtis, same thing, like, where I had no idea how he came into the business.
So fucking Paul Heyman, the first night he looks at me, we're in Eastern College, which isn't too far from the city of Philadelphia.
There's a swimming pool right across the other side.
Yeah. Dude, Paul, he goes, no, he hated the gimmick right away. He goes, surfboard gone. We figured out a way. We sliced it some. He broke it over my head during the match. And then a little bit after, and then one day, all right, here we go. Before this, I'll get you this one. So then how I end up from my whatever the swimsuit was, and wearing the black boots, I came to a show in 5 Points. It was over on the other side of Philly, and I forgot my gear. And I went to the ring and closed, and I went up to Paul, and I remember I said, dude, I forgot my gear. He's like, I don't care. And he walked away. I'm like, dude, I'm never getting dressed again for a show. I'm like, I can show up at the freaking building, dude. That's how I got it.
Well, I was there at that time. I remember the first time we flew in, Funk and I were picked up at the airport by Kathy Fitzpatrick. She had the hotel van. What was that, a Comfort Inn we stayed at there, I think?
The round one?
No, the one up by the airport. Over by the,
by the stadium?
No, by the Shoney's.
No, there's a couple of them.
So we get picked up, and Terry was sitting behind me, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He always called me Shano. He said, "Well, Shano, how long do you think we'll ride this train before it runs off the tracks?" He figured it'd be a month, 2, maybe 3, right? And when I first got there, Eddie, who brought me in, and he had called me multiple times, and I kept saying, that was right after Steamboat and my shoulder was messed up. I had surgery on my shoulder, and they did that Dos Hombres thing. And I was I was already turned off by the politics, but that was just like, you couldn't wait 2-3 weeks for me to get back and do this right, and I left and started using my education, I thought. Eddie called me some months later and said, "I want to bring you to Philadelphia." Thanks, but no thanks. Like, alcoholics stand out of a bar, right? And he kept calling, and every time he'd sweeten the offer, and I said, no, thanks, but no, I loved it. He had to give him a break in the business. And he finally called me and said, "How about if we give you the lead heel spot?" Well, back then, you remember, white meat baby faces didn't become heels, right? So I thought, well, I always want to learn all the aspects of the business. And so he got me hooked with that. And that was when I came in and met Todd for the first time, and Eddie. We were in a...
Now, what year is this?
This is 93.
I must have my years wrong then, but okay.
Yeah, so we used to do the booking meetings. There was an upstairs room, like when you went over across the dock, the loading dock, there was an upstairs area over there, and we had a booking meeting.
At the arena?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And funny, I don't remember going up there again after these meetings, but Doug Gilbert was in there. A bunch was sitting around the table, and I think it was the second or third time. And the meeting starts, Todd comes in, talks to Eddie for a second, they get up and they walk out of the room. They were gone for, seemed like 30, 40, maybe 45 minutes. Todd comes walking back in without Eddie, said, "Eddie left, he's no longer with us, Paul will be the booker now." And Paul had been there with us the whole time.
Dude, I didn't realize you were right there when that shit was happening.
Yes. Now, is there any validity? Because I've never known what happened when they went out that door.
Oh, I know exactly what the reasoning was.
Please do tell,
because Eddie hit on Todd's wife.
I just recently heard that. Is that it?
Yeah, Eddie hit on Todd's wife. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure it was the night Eddie was doing, they shot this thing down in Philly where Todd rented like this carriage and Eddie had like, that imperial fucking margarine.
I remember, yes.
But I'm pretty sure it was that night when they were filming all that Eddie hit on Todd's wife, and then he just decided to do.
How was that kayfabed all those years?
Because people were good.
Wow.
Dude, I didn't know it for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You and Todd were.
Yeah, but I didn't even know it for a while.
Yeah, wow. So Paul took over and laid the show out that night, and Eddie had given me the gimmick, the fabulous one, from that Memphis stuff. Well, for me as a wrestler, what is a fabulous one? It's sort of play arrogant or mean or whatever. But when Paul gave me the franchise gimmick, finally I saw laser beam, but I knew exactly what I was looking for. Was the Sandman character the same for you?
Okay, here we go. I'm in that. Remember, I'm telling you about the wrestling school that I started. My Peaches is there. My youngest son's there. My daughter's there. This story is so great. I don't know. I think all my stories. It's just timing, dude. I've had good timing in my life.
Right place, right time.
Joel walks in, he goes, "I have your name, it's the Sandman, and she's Peaches." I loved it. As soon as he said Sandman, I'm like, yeah, I'm digging this name, cool. Yeah. And I say, why? He goes, because I just saw it on a billboard for a box spring and mattress company out on 95. It was Mr. Sandman box spring and mattress. He sees me 5 minutes later, next thing you know, Mr. Sandman.
Wow. Just this little side note to that, like how incidental things can be. Mick Foley, of course, Mankind, Dude Love. Before that, he was Cactus Jack, right? That was his first gimmick. There's a semi-infamous stories in wrestling circles about Mick Foley and I being late to a show in Clarksburg, West Virginia, which is true. Where the story gets hung up is which one of us decided to be late. He throws the heat on me, and I can't say I didn't think of it. I think it was him. But we were getting there, young punks at that point. We're thinking, well, we're better than these other guys. Why are we on first? And then they're not understanding how a show is set up at all. Right. And so we get to Clarksburg, West Virginia, and a mile or two from the building, there's a bowling alley bar restaurant type place called Cactus Jack's. Now, I've never asked Mick, I've never had the chance to ask him, is that where that Cactus Jack name comes, the Truth and Consequences, New Mexico? But I remember stopping there at that place, and so now Sandman, I find out, comes from a billboard.
Yeah, so did Cactus get his name? Did he decide right then? That's
being such a strange name, Cactus Jack. Right. I can't imagine. I'd never seen it before that.
And it might have hit him 2 weeks later or something like that too. You know what I mean?
Now, like with the Sandman, because the Sandman character is so iconic in the ECW, I consider it one of the pillars of ECW. Now, with that, like I said, with me for the franchise, the character came into focus almost immediately, and it grew after that, of course. But at that initial step, that first baby step, I could see this jackass. Was the Sandman the same?
No, dude, I was still I'm thinking I'm the Sandman, but I'm not the beer drinking, cigarette smoking, Gates. I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah.
So I just get the new gimmick, and I think Paul tried me with Tammy came out with me sometime. I was just at Chris, or just doing some shit with the Rebel or whatever. You want to talk about timing? I get a fucking call. So it's Sunday night. It's probably 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Todd's calling me. He says, Paul Heyman wants you at the studio. Oh, I just happen to live 8 miles from the studio. I'm like, Paul wants me at the studio? Boom! I ran out the fucking door. Swear to God. Paul's standing outside talking to somebody on the phone, and I'm just standing there waiting. He goes, I got this great idea. Because he knew I knew my shit about politics, and I knew my world affairs just like you do. And some guys just don't care, but it's important to us. Yeah. But I knew there was this kid called Michael Fay. And he was in Singapore, and he got caught spray painting these cars. And his punishment with the 4 other kids were these 7 or 8 lashes with this stick that'll cut you open each time it hits you. It's the stick wrapped with some vines, dude. Over there, they do shit a little bit different than here. You know what I mean? They stone people to death still in the middle of towns, dude. It happens. So I'm like, all right, I love the idea. I'm like, what are we going to use for a stick? He goes, there's a tree next to us, a freaking cherry tree next to us. He reaches up, rips a fucking branch off the cherry tree, pulls the twigs off, and he goes, go find some black tape and wrap it around it. We're going to use that. That's how I ended up getting the Singapore
game. That was your first game.
Yes, but then I had known, so that's the branch, and I'm like, this thing looks like the shits, but then I remembered somehow seeing Tojo Yamamoto have a cane in the ring one time in the 70s or whatever the fuck it was, and I said, I'm going to find that, and that's what I want to bring a ring with me.
See, it just reinforces what I always say. Nothing we do is original, it's all recycled. Right, everything comes. You said Yamamoto in the '70s, and now here comes in perfect timing, like you said, with that thing. I remember that vividly. I think that was a big deal. The president was talking.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
You know, and because it was an American kid, right, in Singapore. So now from that, how long? We're gonna talk about your entrance. We're gonna sort of jump back to some stuff here. But with the rest of the entrances in professional wrestling are such a incongruous part of wrestling, right? I mean, you can't imagine wrestling without a WrestleMania or anything without these elaborate entrances. When I was a kid, Bruno Sammartino, here he comes walking to the curtain, walks to the ring, and Bobby Duncan walks to the ring. But then after that, in those late 80s, early 90s, we started seeing these entrances just ramp up more and more, but they were all still sort of vestiges of the old entrances. Your entrance, I can't remember that early period, when you were doing it, but that entrance has become so iconic. Every fan that's ever seen it can't take. I always talk about things you can't take your eyes off of, right? And your entrance was so drew you in, and it was so because you're out there with the fans. They're just having a party going crazy.
And I'm having just as much fun as they are, too,
sure,
I think.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that's conveyed across my face.
Was that a conscious thought to create that entrance, or did it just sort of morph into that?
Here we go. Timing. I think I'm with Missy Hyatt at the Elks Lodge. Wasn't that the one with the strip club next to it?
Lost Battalion Hall.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So they're playing my music. And me and Missy are over at the strip club. Somebody comes running over to find us or whatever. But as soon as I leave that strip club and I stop hearing their music and I still hear my entrance and I hear the whole fucking crowd singing it, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's when it started to get it to me with a little bit, you know what I mean? Why be in such a hurry? You know what I mean? If they're gonna have this much fun right now and I'm not even out there, you know what I mean? I think I'll get a bigger pop fucking later, you know what I mean? And then that turned into all the beers and everything like that. But again, it was just it was dumb luck.
Yeah. Well, it goes. All these things all lead back to something that you were told from somebody earlier in the business. I remember Bill Watts always saying, "At Thanksgiving dinner, nobody wants just a big pile of turkey." So you can get all this and all night long, and that's it. Or like today, all the back flips and threes and kicks to the head. But that's a big pile of turkey. You know, the fans also want to see some of this, some of the flying, some tag team. Also, somebody coming out that they love, standing out here dumping beers down their throat, partying with them, having fun. And that was the thing that always got me. I thought, this is, like, my initial thought was, okay, this will get older after a while. Like, he'll have to start getting to the ring sooner. And it kept going longer and longer, and the fans are going crazier and crazier. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's so lucky.
He's got magic in a can there. It's incredible.
Literally in a can.
Yeah. Ever any problems with the entrance? I know more recently. I like to nostalgically think of the past as being a lot better. Was there ever a time that while you were out there in the audience, you poured beer down a 18-year-old kid's neck?
Not to know. If you look young, then I've actually asked kids for fucking ID. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no, I've never had a problem or ever heard of a problem.
Yeah,
like that.
but you know, when you look back to those ECW days, I wasn't there the night that it happened, but when Mick and Terry Funk had the flaming branding iron, right, and the guy gets burned at ringside. I mean, in today's world, could you imagine you sitting there and getting burned and not suing the hell out of everything 10 cent blocks?
And you can't how many videos there would be of it with like people like right there on top of it, like 6 inches fucking away from it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember, dude. And tell me how that story went. There was the branding iron, was Cactus on the bottom, Funk's on the top trying to jab him. And what the fuck? What happened?
As I recall, when he was branding him, it was actually burning him. And so he knocked it off, and when Mick knocked it off, that there was a towel wrapped around, and the table.
There was a towel tapped around.
Yes.
I remember the white towel.
Went through the towel went in the air, and the way I was doing it just sort of wafted down on this guy. And I think if I'm remembering the story correctly, I think they gave him like some T-shirts and tickets and stuff. The guy was happy with that. He's like, great.
Oh yeah, nowadays, it wouldn't be like Paul would have been paying the fucking the lawsuit anyway.
Right. Now, I'm curious, ever a time when you were doing that entrance, you know, because me, with Franny and my characters, I was doing everything I could to try to stay away from that crowd, right? Was there ever a time out there that there was some jackass fan that pushed you or?
Yeah, one dude, me and Cactus, we were at the Davie Arena, but we were at the Davie Arena and we were around like, you know the bars that the clowns jump up on to stay away from the bulls. We were up on there and a guy grabbed us both one time, but I don't know, it's like like you say, I'm a baby face. You know what I'm saying?
And Atlas Security was the best of the business.
Oh God.
There's a great story, I'll tell you off camera, about the Elks Lodge. That one night somebody threw, I think it was a quarter, and hit me during a promo, and I no-sold it, but kept wiping blood off my face. Get back, and Atlas said, "Hey, we got the guy." You know, so we had a little discussion. We'll talk about that off camera, but so now, like to me, in my brain, that first thing that really started getting Sandman over was the 10 canes on Tommy Dreamer. And it got Tommy over huge.
Yeah, we both of us literally put us both on the map, dude.
Where'd that come from? Whose idea was it?
Dude, it might have been Nancy's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might have been Nancy's, and she was great during it. You know what I mean? Yeah. She was so good. I learned so much from her. It was ridiculous.
Now, in my brain, do I have it right that you were still selling the blinded gimmick, right?
No, that was afterwards.
That was after. Okay, so I thought that night you pulled them off and caned them.
No, there was all the Kanan first, and then he ends up blinding me, and then I rip him off at the next show, and then I cane him some more, but it wasn't like the 10 last thing.
Right. Now, this past Monday, we had done for 80s Wrestling. .com, we had done a roundtable with Simon Diamond, Mikey Whipwreck, Jerry Lynn, Too Cold, and me. And this story came up about the blinding, and Simon was talking about how you had sold that blind. You were wrapped up all over, like every time you go out or whatever.
Yeah, well, I didn't have to go out much. I mean, there's not everybody in the world has a camera or has a fucking a computer in their pocket. You know what I mean? So it was a lot easier to kayfabe then. You know what I mean? I'm not from a big town anyway. Right. You know what I mean? It's only 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the town couldn't even care less or knew who I would have been anyway.
Right.
But still, I stayed hidden, for a while because that's just how I was taught.
Right. But that's the kind of stuff we hear today. So much talk about kayfabe, the blurring of the line, right? Back in our day, you and I would have never been in a car together or been seen together someplace. Couldn't be. And and you hear the thing that drives me crazy. I don't understand. I know Vince gets it, so I know he knows it's wrong. You and I are doing an angle leading up to WrestleMania, right? You're caning me, and I'm taking my chain out and hitting you and slashing your tires and doing all the skullduggery. Now, the WrestleMania experience. Here's Shane Douglas and Hagel. Hey, here we are having a drink before WrestleMania. Why do they do that? I mean, it just blows it, right? I mean, it does nothing to the fan other than blow it to me.
I don't know, dude. Do they all just really Dude, I believe this shit. I mean, all the way up to like 14 years old, dude. I fucking believe this shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, wrestling's not fake. I'm getting ready to fight with somebody in 7th grade or 8th grade. They're saying wrestling's fake, dude. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. To your point, it's just a totally different business now. And
well, when we were kids, again, it shows the change of the world, right? When we were kids, where we had that backyard show, a friend of mine's dad owned the bar, and they lived right next to it. Well, we would go down on Sundays and clean the bar for his dad, and we'd dump a little beer in a cup and drink it. Thought we were being all grown up, But we also had my friend Bill Peterson had a Super 8 camera. And we would do promos behind the pool table, no sound, right? We had like one of our friends, Steam Engine Steve, big heavy guy, great guy. We had a board with ketchup on it, and they come out and hit him with the board. He goes down behind the pool table, comes up with the blood on him, right? Now there's no sound of this. I'd love to see that footage today. But
how old are you here?
We're like 13, 14 years old.
Oh, that's great.
At the time of our lives, right? We got this bar to ourselves and shooting stuff and having fun. But now back to the blinding angle. Like, was that Paul's idea or Nancy's idea? Because I remember thinking, again, where I came from in the business, and I think this is where I had a lot of problem with you in the beginning was that mine was that ultra conservative orthodox of wrestling, right? The arm bars and the headlocks and all that kind of stuff. And wrestling was ready to take a shit change at that point into, broadening out all the
ladders, tables, and chairs. Oh my!
Amen. And so, when I saw the blinding and everything, the fans aren't going to buy this. And to my astonishment, they bought it completely. All
right, so let's say me saying 90 means nothing percent, but like 60. All right, let's say between 50 and 90. Just throw some numbers out there. What the hell? Yeah. That it was Paul's idea, but my idea was I liked the blinding thing or whatever, but I wanted to do it like a Tommy Rich would have done it, like. Tommy, he would, with that white hair, he would bleed all over you, go through the people and shit like that. I wanted to do that, and he goes, Nancy, no, we are not doing it that way. If we want to believe it, we're going to have to do it this way. And then I'm pretty sure she came up with the idea to carry me out through the people.
Yeah.
So I'm bleeding, and I hated it, but it turned out that I think that's what sold the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. It's crazy, those little tiny details. And obviously I haven't been married to Kevin Sullivan at that point and literally grew up in the business for Nancy. that she was around all these people thinking they knew how important those little things were.
Oh, dude, it is, dude. Every single match is 1,000 little things, and they're not all just you wrestlers. There's also a referee out there too that has to do his fucking job. Because if he does it, then if he fucks up that 3 count, what did you just work so hard for?
That's right. Again, back to Ricky Steamboat. It's something you heard before. Ricky Steamboat used to always say, "It's the small things that makes the big things count." And like you just said, perfect, better than I can say it. A wrestling match is 1,000 little things thrown together, right?
It is.
Every one of them are important. So now so it was 3 weeks that you guys did that. In my head, I again, it's so long, but I had it. There was like multiple TV tapings that you were blinded on.
Well, maybe. Well, probably was push pull. He was probably pushing it every week on TV for like 3 straight weeks. And
Gotcha.
oh my God! I even got sick of seeing. He played me Kane Dreamer so many times for every week. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I couldn't even watch it anymore.
Yeah,
because I'd seen it so many times.
But that opening was what I think began to build that legend of ECW. Right?
What that opening with the letters?
The Kings. And
yeah,
all that,
yeah, I agree totally.
Such a part of it. So, like, in full disclosure, in the early years of ECW, there was this between Hack and I, right? And it was, I think, each of us not knowing each other, and me being a big-headed, I'm one of those wrestler guys, right?
And me being just an asshole.
And then I started seeing you, like, again, watching you, and like one day the light bulb went on. I would watch that entrance again. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. To me, I always had to work hard at everything. It seemed. I've seen you walking out there having fun with the fan. Well, Jesus Christ, he's more over than anybody in the building. And but watching it, and then I'm not watching you. I'm watching the fans and their faces. They are having the fucking time of their life.
Love that.
They're having the fucking time of their life. And then it clicked to me. He's exactly like them, and every one of them see themselves in him. They're living vicariously through Hack in the ring.
Dude, I am the guy that wants to go to a fucking bar, play in a game of pool, lose money to you, and then beat you up with the stick after I lost. Everybody gets that person.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
It took me a while to get that person too, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yes. Everybody, I mean, how many drunks have been portrayed like that in every different like cop show or whatever, dude? You know what I mean? That's what people know.
Yeah. That's
what they can identify with. And I'm thinking, there's all these super muscle bound motherfuckers, dude. And I'm like, how does this fucking 19, 20-year-old kid that just started drinking himself identify with this guy with all the muscles?
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know when that all clicked in my head. But when that did, yeah, then there's like another level to, I think, to the Sandman.
Yeah, and it was just another piece of that puzzle that is ECW. When we did the roundtable this past Monday, we were all talking about, how anytime you put any of us in a room and the chemistry. I had been in wrestling for 11 years before ECW. I had never seen that kind of family feel, that fraternity feel, and never seen it after. I hear everybody talk about we're going to be the next ECW, and you walk in the dressing room, and I didn't realize at that time how special it was.
No, I don't think any of us did.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, there was multiple veterans that would come in there, dudes that I didn't even know, and they're like, "Damn, this fucking locker room's pretty fucking cool."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we like being, we were in the arena. It wasn't like, God, there's a couple of like stars over here in this room. There's the one big star over there, dude. We were all in just one big room, dude. It was all for one and one for all, and nobody had ever seen a company like that.
No. The things the apex things to that to me are. I remember Franny and I coming back from one of our matches, I forget against who, come to the curtain, and everybody sitting at the monitor jumped up and gave us a standing ovation. I was just being nice, right? But then you'd watch the next match and watching you and and that just became infectious, I don't want to use the word cancer, but it was infectious, right? It bled to the dressing room. Then there's also the event in Jim Thorpe where I can remember I was walking towards the entrance and Dancing with Wolves, Dudley had come through the curtain. He had just wrestled New Jack, and he had this like real scared look on his face. I said, what's wrong? And he said, somebody's called New Jack the N-word. Oh shit! He took off and the dressing room emptied out. Do you remember this night?
I kind of remember, and I don't remember the details. Was Terry Gordy there that night? Do you remember?
Oh, he might have been. I just remember going out there, and there was probably 100, 150 people in the room, but anybody that was moving was getting dropped. Like, people were just whacking people. I grabbed the guy in the front chin lock, and...
Of course, Shane goes right to his fucking...
And Perry sat, remember there's that little wall around the ring.
Yes, I know that wall.
So Perry's standing up on that wall, and he's stomping the guy, like I got the guy here, and he's, I mean, as hard as he could stomp the guy. I turn like, you're gonna kill the guy. I let him go, somebody else cold cocks the guy. Like, Jesus God, we're all gonna get
Jim
arrested.
Thorpe, we're on the top of this mound, dude. It was the scariest locker room you have ever been in your life. It was like this 6 foot wide, rickety, fucking 100-year-old like trail. It looked like a train trestle. Fucking.
Yeah.
It was fucking. And dude, it's a straight down job, dude.
Yeah.
That thing, and we had a lot of weight out on that thing
sure.
a couple nights, dude. I didn't like sitting down on that
Well, what
place.
he's talking about is we were dressing on like the back patio area of the bar, and when you looked over the railing, it was literally straight down to a river that looked about that wide. And so it must have been a mile down.
Yeah, dude.
That building slid. We weren't stopping until we got to the river. There was another time I heard, you'll love this story about Tracy Smothers.
Tracy.
There was an armory, and
Love you, dude.
Simon Down, remember, there was a new armory in New Jersey somewhere. And I was on last, and I hear this like melee going out, and then I hear noise outside. So I get on the bench and I look up over top of the lockers, and the window's up high. And I look out, and it looked like a scene from Walking Dead. Like the bodies, people like staggering around, holding their heads and stuff. And I went, what the hell's going on? And there's Tracy Smothers right out like in the middle of the yard, and he's going. He's airboxing.
Oh, that's totally Tracy.
Yeah. So now Tommy Dreamer in Alaska tells me the rap to this story. Like, you told me about Todd, and you hear all these stories, now you get the rest of the story. Tommy was out there trying to get all the ECW guys back in the building because he knew the cops.
I'm sure, because that's Tommy.
Right. And a cop comes up with a dog, and he tells him, get in the building. He's trying to negotiate with the cop. I'm trying to get the guys in. And he said, out of no place, he hears a voice in his ear. He said, you get the cop, I got the dog. It's Tracy. You take the cop, I'll get the dog.
Oh my God, he is a badass.
Oh, it's so crazy.
You people you gotta understand something about Tracy. Some people would ask me who the toughest guy in the locker room was. At a point, it was Tracy Smothers.
Yeah.
That dude was bare knuckle. All right, he used to live on a farm, right? And on the 4th of July, everybody that had the big farms, they would all get together and have this big party. And everybody who had the toughest hand on the farm, they would bare knuckle box, and the guys would be paying money. Well, Tracy's like a 14-year-old kid, the toughest kid on his farm, bare buckle boxing grown fucking men, while the rich guys are throwing $100 in the ring betting on you, dude. That dude was a tough mother, and straight fucking. If he gets mad, it's like blackout.
Yeah, the sea red, right?
Yeah,
Go red.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah,
But what a great guy, dude. Oh my God, I love that dude so much.
Yeah, he's gone way too soon, right?
I love that dude.
So now back to ECW with your character. You go that. Then we have the infamous 10 canes on Tommy, right? And like clearly you weren't working those shots. You couldn't. Right?
No, dude. We were both all in, and we both know it. Yeah, dude. The first one bloodied him.
Yeah.
And I knew how to bloody him because I wish. Why don't we have a fucking cane here? It's probably have a Chris's car, but there's these red strings that are on the side of the cane, dude. If you hit him with the red string, fucking it will bleed. It will make you bleed.
But I remember sitting up in the Eagle's Nest and watching. Which one? I always get them backwards. Which one had Ron with the camera? Was that the Eagles or Crows?
No, the Eagles was the one that was closer to the left of the entrance.
Okay, so then the Crow's Nest, I was in.
Yeah.
I'd watch from behind the camera up there because nobody would be looking up there. And I remember watching this, and as they proceeded on, and you could the crowd, me watching was feeling the pain. And
they were too.
And Tommy, I remember Tommy had asked me early on. He said, trying to pick the veteran's brain, like, how do you get over as a babyface? And that's when he's still wearing those suspenders and everything. He came back.
and his shiny pants. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. Yeah.
He came back that night and I said, remember you asked me that question? I said, what you just did out there is how you get over. I said, that's
nice.
And he was over after that, right? I mean,
oh, dude, both of us, both our careers just went boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Staying together, and then we went away for a little while. I went and did something. He did some great shit with Raven. Freaking yeah, but that to both of us, we know that was the night that our careers really started.
Took hold, and then like after again like that from that point forward, I'm watching this entrance and the matches that you're having, and as different as they were, right? And you're watching and thinking the fans are watching. These had this great entrance. They had a party for 15 minutes, and now they're into the match. It clicked in my head right back to what Bill said, right? This is the pumpkin pie. You know, they're loving it. And then Dusty used to always say, right, it's all about putting asses in seats, baby. And that put asses in seats, right?
That is basically the bottom line.
Now what, because all of us that were in ECW, I knew I never wanted to leave. I was through it. I got to spend the rest of my life there and loved it. What lured you away?
Here's the deal.
You were like this with ECW.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah, dude. And I just actually told DDP, which will come into the story in a little bit, at his birthday party maybe 6 months before this, I was like, dude, I'm ECW as long as the company's alive. And we were just bullshitting at his fucking birthday. Me and him got along real good, like real all of a sudden for some reason. And so I have a deal with Paul Heyman. I don't even have a fucking written contract.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Dude, all I wanted to be was his highest paid player in his game. And I think my denim number was probably around 3 G's or whatever. But that was a weekly pay. I know the weekly pay was probably like $150 or whatever. But whatever, I found out that he paid Sabu $1,000 more than me for a pay-per-view that me and him did. And Paulie's so stupid that he said that. Why wouldn't he think we would talk about it? You know, I mean, Paulie's super brilliant, but you know, sometimes you're just not thinking. I mean, the guy's super brilliant, but as soon as I found out, I called him on my way home. I remember I was in like Columbus, Ohio, driving to the Cincinnati airport, and I just told him I quit. The next morning, I called Raven, who got me DDP's number. I didn't get to talk to DDP, but just so happens I'm living in Salt Lake. Timing is fucking everything, right. Dude. You did another one of Hack's timing story. So I'm living in Salt Lake City because I started a concrete construction company out there. And it just so happens all of them are going to Casper, Wyoming that night, and all of them living in Atlanta back in those days. Every single one of them had to fly through the Salt Lake City airport. So I'm going to catch the fucking flight to fly to Casper, Wyoming to talk to DDP that night. I come there, I remember I'm walking down the stairs, oh darn, here's Rick Rude, who I know really good because he was in ECW, and I know and DDP standing there.
No kidding.
Walked right, I'm like, yeah, you guys hugged them both. And I had no problem talking in front of Rick. And at first, DDP was like, dude, you want to be saying this? I'm like, no, this dude's cool with me. I was like, I want a job. He goes, you told me you were never leaving ECW. I said, think it changed. I told him the thing. He goes, I said, here's my number. Give me a call tomorrow. Within 2 days, I had a $250,000 deal and a $10,000 signing bonus.
Nice.
Literally, that's how lucky I was. Yeah. I quit Sunday night. Fucking they're going to Monday night fucking night show. I don't even have to get on the plane.
Wow.
Dude, timing is so everything. It's incredible in my life. I've been so lucky.
And do you sometimes think, and looking back at that, you know, not to get philosophical, but you know, we hear this thing about free will, you know, versus preconceived. Do you think that was like a script? Your life was just following a script sometimes. Like those, and you look back at those like iconic points that you're saying.
That's heavy, dude.
Like, you know, you're in the United States of America, right? Pretty big place. And on the particular night you quit, those guys are right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think I've been blessed with time, and I've been blessed with a lot of shit. But fucking, some people are blessed with fucking talent. I don't know. I was blessed with timing.
Now, like my leaving to WWF the way I was lured away. was Jim Ross, who I'd known for pretty much since I had my break in the business with UWF, kept saying, would call me quite often, and not every call, but he would periodically say, hey, remember, Shane, sometimes opportunity only knocks once. And they kept calling. It took several times to leave, but it was almost immediately after I did. It took me like 6 months to finally come to sign, and even then, after I signed, it just didn't feel right. Like it just, no, okay, let's go make the best of it. And but as soon as I got there, I knew it was the wrong place. How soon after you got to WCW did you realize like this wasn't like your place?
To me, I always knew that the shelf life was only going to be so long, and I figured I wouldn't make the whole contract.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I'm going into my head, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's so many fucking big stars there and shit like that. There's no way they're giving me a chance.
Right.
But next thing you know, me and Bam were fucking leading off every fucking Monday Night Nitro for like 9 weeks in a row because Vince is talking to fucking Cactus or Stone Cold. You know how he used to open up the first 20 minutes?
Yes.
So Nash was smart. As soon as he got the book, he goes, you guys are opening up.
Yeah.
And we did really good then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I knew there was always going to be a shelf life there. And there was always rumors about that company was like haywire back then. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, Dusty was the only person that I could talk. It was hard to, I talked to Bischoff when we went to lunch and signed the deal, and we didn't even finish the fucking lunch. He had to go right away. I met that dude for like maybe 30 minutes, and I don't even know if I talked to him again the rest of the time. The whole next year I was at the company.
Wow. Now, when you got there, did they have any grasp of the Sandman character of what?
Well, Nash did because I was sitting. They signed me. They gave me my fucking. They gave me that $10,000 signing bonus. It was on like September 9th. They didn't use me until March 6th. They cut a couple videos. They were going to use me as Raven's smart friend with Canyon. I hated it, but I didn't care. I'm getting paid, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I was liking to stay at home too. The day Kevin Nash got that book, he got the book on Sunday. J.J. Dillon calls me and says, Hack, they want you in Minnesota tomorrow.
Nice. And now, obviously, in larger arenas and stuff like that, the entrance, how did they address that?
They wanted me to. They would just cut it off. If I was going longer, they just start the other guy's music.
Yeah.
And Kevin started doing that with Vince too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just cut me. I'm walking around the top of the walls. They just start the other guy's shit. Like hacking the ring.
I remember.
And then he told me, "Do not go short tonight."
Yeah.
I think I might have been the only guy ever that they would. If Kevin got, he was like, dude, he would literally tell the ref, "Remember, Kevin said, do not go short tonight."
Really?
Dude, I didn't want to be out there that long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Give me my entrance, let me do a couple things, and that's
Right.
it. I don't need to be out there that long.
The first night I came in there after leaving after leaving ECW, the second time, I came to Jackson. I wasn't working, but I had taken my ex-wife on a cruise, a 2-week cruise, because I knew I was going to be tied up for a couple of years, busy. And Bischoff had called me. Well, it had come through Dusty. Dusty had been on Mike Today's radio show, and Mike called me and said, "Hey, Dusty was on the show last night talking, really positive about you." So I called Dusty to thank him, and he said, "Do you mind if I bring your name up in a meeting, baby?" And I said, "No, go, whatever." And he
please.
Yeah. And Bischoff called. It was maybe a week from the start of this episode to me being signed and going. And but I remember Eric saying vividly, "I want to be the one that brings Shane Douglas and Ric Flair to television." So Jacksonville, we stayed in Florida for, I think we got back Saturday. We stayed in Florida for a couple days, went to Disney World and everything. And then I went to the Jacksonville on my dime. I wanted to see all the guys, let them know how eager I am to be at work, and I'm ready.
Nice.
And I walked in, and you and Mikey and Peaches were in the backstage area, and we started talking, and there's other people coming by. It was like a lot of just hustle bustle and hellos and things, and everybody went dead quiet. And I knew Ric Flair. I felt him walking by. I didn't see him. I felt him. And before I said, "Rick, how you doing, bud?" And I turned around, and there he was standing right behind me. And you know, Rick, the ever-present politician, right? I knew he probably wanted to tell me this, but instead he saw all the eyeballs watching. Everybody was quiet and looking at us. He shook my hand and I wouldn't let it go. He went to walk away and I wouldn't let go. And I said, Rick, and again, knowing that all the eyes were watching, I said, Rick, I think you and I should probably talk, right? And he looked around and he said, yeah, give me some time to settle in. He said, give me 15 minutes to settle in. So I went down to catering to get coffee, and I intentionally stayed down for like 45 minutes, came up, and that started that whole thing. But that night, if I'm not mistaken, you had some match that had a table involved. And when you went through the table was upside, it was right side up, standing up, like open, went through, and the legs all came straight through the table. And how they didn't stab you, I have no idea.
Lucky.
Again, all four of those legs went straight up through.
Oh, dude, there's so many near misses. I mean, think of the New Jack freaking jumping off of fucking buildings, dude. The fucking Johnny Rocco Rock, remember he put Scorpio through the two tables off the top of the cage or whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, there was a lot of trust. You had to have a lot of trust with the person that you're working with to do a lot of the stuff that we did. You know what I mean?
Lee and Tommy on the swinging scaffold.
That I made. I actually made that scaffold. Dreamer was petrified. I didn't realize he was petrified ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I made that.
Brian took the four
Boom,
tables.
boom, and then they laid on top of him.
How, thank God it didn't happen, but that nobody got killed in that arena.
A bunch of broken necks, but
fucking
like me, Taz, fucking, did you bring Gary?
I never knew Gary, but I never knew it at the time. Years later when I was getting off the OxyContin, my body started having these seizures. And it took 5 days when I figured out, and the doctor walked in and he said, when did you break your neck? I said, I've never broken my neck. And he said, well, there's only three things, all the muscle tissue in my neck and back had died. And he said, there's only three things that cause that: infection, surgery, or broken neck. I said, well, it must have been an infection. I never had surgery, never broke my neck. He said, an infection that large would have killed you if it hadn't been treated. So they took me down and focused solely on my neck and came back, and sure enough, C2 busted. And I always tell people, in wrestling, your neck and back are always sore. I mean, every day of the week.
Yeah, dude, your neck's broken and you're literally wrestling the next week. I had a broken C4 and a half, and I didn't stop wrestling. I never knew until I got hurt in that junkyard match with WCW. I go to the hospital, they did the CAT scan, they say, yeah, we think your neck's broken. I said, listen, my neck's been hurt worse than this before. They did the MRI, they're like, yeah, you did this probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And wrestling, I got cracked by the chiropractor the next morning, Sunday morning.
Wow.
Dude.
Remember the day that Gary's neck got broken, right? In the dressing room that night, he's back because he took that bump, and I remember him hitting it was like a thud, it wasn't a bump. And I look over at him and he's rolling, holding his neck. It looked to me like he's selling. But in the dressing room that night, all night long, he's going, I got a kink in my neck, and he's jerking his neck all over the place, right?
We are idiots.
So on Monday,
we are such idiots.
Monday morning, Todd calls me, because me and Todd used to always try to rib each other back then. We were always ribbing each other, right? And he called me and I said, "Did you hear about Gary?" I said, "What?" He goes, "He's over at the University of Penn right now. He's going into surgery. You broke his neck." I went, "I ain't buying it, Todd." I said, "He was cracking his neck all night and Saturday at the building. Fuck off, you know." So that week, I said, all week I'm not buying. I go to the show that week, and
he's got the halo and the screws rashly in his head. Those screws in his head fucked with me. That like that. I want to look at them.
Yeah, that sold it to me. But
oh, dude, but then when he came back and you did this to him, that fucking building went unglued when you did that, dude. That was some Brady.
I get out. In hindsight, if I knew that was going to be the reaction, I'm not sure I would have done it because...
Dude, I thought it was great.
Franny was laying face down, selling. She had no idea what's going on. When I grabbed the halo, I remember hearing this collective gasp in the building. And we had a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, and on 5, release him. And he went, and because he was locked into that thing, he looked like Frankenstein's monster falling, right?
Dude, I see the whole spot in my head,
crazy.
Dude.
And I'm then, from there I go to try to gauge the crowd, and the crowd was like this, and then fans were coming out, and I saw fans jump in camera left, stage right, and I took off opposite to get, my thing is to get Franny.
Yeah, get Franny, get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
So I take off and I land and I turn around to get Franny and I see a cop come around the post, helmet, face mask, shoulder pads, you know, and Paul had always said,
Did Tracy want to fight him too?
yeah, so he would have, yeah, sure he would have. So Paul used to tell me and Franny, if you ever see cops in riot gear, you know you're in imminent danger. Well, we're in that building all day. It's not much bigger than this, right?
Literally.
You're there all day and don't see any cops. I'm like, no bullshit. But when I saw him come around that post, my heart went, because I thought somebody had a gun to my head or something. Well, he came behind me and started pushing me. I grabbed Franny. She still doesn't know what's going on. And I can't get her because another one came around the same way and he's pulling me and pushing me. And I'm dragging Franny and I'm bent over like this. And as they moved the railing, Tommy had pulled both curtains back.
Yeah, your head's down. You have no control what's going on. You're just taking me, boys.
And people were punching and kicking and me, and I'm getting the shit beat out of me. So I pushed my head up to stop getting hit, and I see Tommy with both curtains, and the look on Tommy's face was like of absolute terror. And the audience pushed like a wave right through the dressing room following us, and Damian Fair, rest his soul, was out on the loading dock, had the car started and drive, but it had locked the doors. So I get to the door handle expecting to get stabbed any second, and it's locked. And I went, over the door, over the door, over the door, and throw Franny, and he peels out, we're driving away, and funk popped into my head. Remember he got cut in San Antonio, the guy gutted him, and he said, you won't know till after, Shano, if you've been stabbed. So I'm
right, you're not even gonna feel it.
And I look at Franny,
first slice.
Am I bleeding? Is anything
really
sticking out of me, right? And then we had to be snuck into the building in the trunks of cars. But that was the
That's great too. The shit that this company has done.
yes.
Get snuck in the building in cars. That's
all those things.
awesome.
Just look at these two idiots sitting here, right? You had the blinding angle, you had the caning angle, you had that angle with your son and Raven and
Funk out of the box.
Funk out of the box, and you know the Halo incident, and then add everybody else's stuff in on top.
God, dude, it's like the stories. Dude, oh my God, we need like 50 cameras, and we need all of us in a big party, dude.
Right. Well, wouldn't it be something to have some place where you could go and see all that stuff? Now hear all these stories being told by the people that were there to do them.
Yeah, man.
Crazy. So now. Did you ever go back to ECW after you left?
Oh, all right. So I get the call. I remember signing the contract on like September 9th the one year. So the next year, I guess this is 2000. But what the fuck do I know? I've been off so much on years tonight. It's like ridiculous. Okay, so I get a call from JJ Dillon again. They said, Hack, we've decided to release you. I'm like, thanks, JJ. Picked up the fucking phone, and I don't even know if it was a flip phone. I might even have been on a house phone at this point. So it might have been I think I was in my bedroom. I called up Todd Gordon. I said, I just got fired. I need a job. He goes, all right, I'll take care of it. Hung up. Called me back 5 minutes later. He goes, all right, you're making $3,000 or $3,500 a week with Paulie, and we're gonna start you on the Halloween show October 31st. So I had to keep that quiet for another like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want and nobody, me, fucking, do you know I was coming back?
No.
Me, Todd Gordon, fucking Paulie, and fucking Dreamer. I'm pretty sure we're probably the only people that know because. We couldn't trust something like that getting out, or you wouldn't have got that fucking pop when I did come out. You know what I mean?
And where was that night?
I was at the arena.
That was at the arena.
Yeah.
And I remember the.
I stayed in the van. I stayed in my Sandman van the whole time. I remember my kids and my wife were there with me. I didn't even get into the arena. Nobody in the arena even knew that I was there until like 60 seconds before I'm supposed to go up on that perch thing.
Yeah. I remember standing up there.
Dude, I love popping the boys.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was my Candido in me.
Yeah, it popped us. Let's talk about the guys that have gone, right?
Oh, jeez.
Because it is, in ECW, in life there's always a yin and yang, right? There was that special magic about ECW, and then the yang of that was half or better are gone, and gone way too soon. I mean,
the super significant ones. Yeah, I mean, there's guys that have had cups of coffee and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yes, a lot of this, dude, I can't believe I'm still here, honestly.
Yeah, when we were doing the Hardcore Homecoming in 2005, I had asked my partner then to do a video, and I'm thinking it's gonna be like a maybe 90-second video just to like pay homage to these guys, right? And he had made the video, and we get ready. I think it was like in segment 4, and I had never seen it. I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see it that night in that building. So we go to the ring and you know, start playing the video. The video ended up playing like 6 minutes, and it was just friend after friend after friend after friend that you've had a million incredible fun experiences with, right? And I don't think there was a dry eye in the place, mine included, just sitting there and watching it. But for some reason, probably because of the triple threat, Bam Bam and Chris, when Chris died, that was like the gut punch to me. You know, I was working on Hardcore Homecoming, and he was obviously going to be an integral part of it. And Tommy called me about midnight. I'm sitting on my desk working, and I take the call, and he's crying. Well, I'd never heard Tommy cry. And when his grandfather died, I didn't hear him cry. And I'm thinking, did he get fired? What the hell's going on? And he said, can you tell me, is Chris okay? And Chris had just broken his leg real bad in TNA. So
and then they put him on the plane and he got the blood clot.
Yeah, so I didn't hear any of that. I didn't even know he had gotten home, but I said, oh, well, he broke his leg pretty badly. He had surgery, but he's going to be fine. And he said, no, not that. I heard he died. No, well, what? I said, hold on, I'll call you right back. And I dialed Tammy. She answers the phone. Perfectly normal. Hello? It's like, it's a rip. I said, Tammy, it's Shane. Is Chris okay? And she said, oh, who is it? I said, it's Shane. She goes, oh, okay. Well, tonight, who is it again? I said, Tammy, it's Shane. And this kept going on back and forth. She kept asking me who this is. I said, it's Shane Douglas, Tammy. Is Chris okay? She goes, oh, it's not Tammy, it's her sister. I forget her name, but it sounds on the phone exactly like her. And she said at 7:35 tonight, Chris was eating a bowl of soup. He looked up, collapsed in his soup, and died 35 minutes later. And I couldn't catch my breath. And my wife came out of the bedroom. She was in sleeping. She thought I was having a heart attack. I'm going, I couldn't breathe. And then I had to call Dusty and Dixie and just I get goosebumps even talking about it, because I remember walking up to his casket and seeing him laying there, and it was like a fucking Twilight Zone episode. You know, it's just absolutely crazy. I mean, the people that you lost that you were closest with in ECW.
I did, like Rocco Rock, Johnny Grunge, you know what I mean? That was just the start of, dude, I don't know, there was so many of them. Big Dick, I was close with him. It's just hard to remember all of them in my head, you know what I mean? So you have to understand, at one point, there was like this 5-year period where like 40 of us fucking it was like once a month one of us was like going. It was like crazy shit, you know?
At that time, did you, like me, in my head, it was sort of like there's a curse on wrestling, and this is what happens to wrestlers, like when's my turn? Did you go through that?
Well, yes, I was absolutely thoroughly convinced that I wasn't going to make 50 years old, but I even thought that when I was a young kid. I always thought I was going to die in a plane accident, and I never thought I'd live past 50, so.
I'm not getting a plane with you.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why I live life so hard, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's just how I felt when I grew up.
Yeah, it's, in hindsight, you know, obviously we've had pretty lengthy careers since ECW. In hindsight, looking back, I always talk to people like our mutual friend about why is ECW still talked about? You know, was it something in the water at that time? Is it something, you know, what there's obviously a lot of parameters to it. What's your take on that?
We fucking broke the business, dude. We changed the fucking industry. In '96, dude, ECW's on the fucking back of Japanese magazines, dude. You wouldn't have saw that shit fucking before, you know what I mean?
Right.
For like a fucking little indie company in fucking Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. No way, dude. We changed the industry at a point, honestly, and that's just exactly why I think it is the way it is.
Yeah. In hindsight, I couldn't put it any better. And looking back at it, to me, I think it's at least simplifying it, is like a sort of a two-piece formula. The part of it was we changed the industry, right? We created magic there. But also since then, the industry, in my estimation, has gone so far off the rails. You know that.
Oh, that's why, dude. I just don't watch.
Yeah.
It's why I watch the same match over and over and over and over again. And these dudes are taking like 50 big bumps a match, dude. What are they doing to their bodies? You know what I'm saying? Jesus Christ, Kevin Sullivan be like, are you kidding me, kid? He get one bump a match.
Well, the fact that you and I are still out there doing it and having fun, and and what we did to our bodies, I can't imagine. We didn't do anything like these kids are doing.
No, dude, we were taking that, dude. That's like, imagine, like, in some of their matches, imagine having 20 mile-an-hour car crashes in a 8-minute time. Imagine that. That's exactly what their shit is doing, dude. You flip somebody off the like a superplex or something like that, dude. They consider that like a 35 mile-an-hour car crash. You know, I'm just trying to imagine that, dude.
And I'll put a table in there, and
I always liked the table because I thought it helped me break my fall a little bit.
The tables were easy on the bump, but I mean, again, all the accumulation of that on your body. I remember, the old timers telling me, you have a bump tank, and you had so many in your tank, I had so many in my tank, and when that tank's empty, they're in the gas station.
Well, my bit's empty for a long fucking time, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, you probably spent yours up in the first 2 years of ECW.
Huh?
I said, you probably spent yours out in the first 2 years of ECW.
Well, yeah, once we got going. Yeah, dude, because I'm out there. You gotta understand, like, how long, like, an ECW card with, like, we invented, like, 4-hour shows, 4.5-hour shows, dude. You go out, you know how much they've seen, and that just made me want to have to up it more when I'm working with Sabu and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I always said, in ECW, that was another thing that was magic about it. Other places I had worked previous to that, as the young punk, you got and have a good match.
Not too good.
Yeah, bingo. You get back to the dressing room, what would they say?
I see Mikey Whipwreck get fired over. Him and Billy Kidman opened up a pay-per-view, they tore the house down, they never used Mikey again.
Because if you do that in the first match, then I gotta work harder later, right? Did you ever hear anybody in ECW say, what the fuck, Hack? Why'd you go out and do all that shit? Now I gotta work harder. Never heard anything like that. It was just, again, maybe we were too stupid.
Go out tapping.
It was just.
We were hungry.
Yes. Yeah.
We were fucking hungry, dude.
It's a rhetorical question. What do you think when you hear ECW chants today? I mean, 20 plus years after the company's been gone.
It's fucking hilarious. It's the best.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that our crowd was a very, very unique crowd, as in no other crowd did that shit in the United States. Yeah, overseas, I've been at rugby games, soccer games back in the day, and they're chanting and they're singing. They're not yelling, you fucked up. Right. That crowd invented being a professional fan.
Yeah.
And they were just as part of, they felt like they were just as a part of the show as we were.
6 man on the bench, I was called.
Yeah.
They were
like
there,
that.
man.
They really were.
And you try to convey to young kids in the business. I remember several times getting in the arena and either being sick or tired or just had surgery and you just didn't really feel like it and you struggle to get dressed. You get to that curtain and you hear that Deep Purple hit, right? And boom, there we go. Let's go. It was like I was like being plugged into a 220 outlet, and that crowd was the reason.
Dude, live for that entrance.
If you could bottle that, right?
Dude, I'd be dead. I would have drank the whole fucking bottle in one day. I'd be done.
Incredible.
I would have.
Great experience at ECW, and this stuff. This is like a scratch on the tip of the tip, right? I mean,
there's like a zillion other better stories.
Every night there were 500 things that went on that night, and by the next morning you'd be here. Hey, hear what Sandman did last night? You find out what Funker did, and it was like, what? I didn't, it was every single night. We've got to get to a point where we catalog that stuff, where that stuff all comes out, so that when we're dead and gone. That can live on and the fans can see it. Because my take now is, with all this social media, and we're two old farts and wrapping our brain around this stuff. But we didn't. The world didn't have this technology when we were kids. But now, you look at it and I think this computer thing might catch on, right? So there's clearly an inertia out there. Like I was telling our mutual friend, the fact that the business has gone where it's gone. Like you see Raw after WrestleMania drop 4% from a week before. There was always 15-20% bump after WrestleMania. So you see that, and it's clearly a bad
numbers
moment.
are that bad right now.
Yes.
They're as bad as NBA numbers right now.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I didn't realize that.
And trending the same way. If it weren't for all these billion-dollar deals, Vince, you got to give him credit as a businessman. He built this incredible business, right? For 30, 35, 40 years. Now the business is empty, right? The numbers are shocking, and I always bore people with these numbers. But at one point, back when the three companies, ECW, WWF, WCW were in business, there was an average annual weekly viewership of 48 to 52 million people. And, it would fluctuate up and down, but you look now and you're getting, if you add them all together like back then, you get somewhere around 4 or 5 million. So that means we've lost 97.5% of our
but don't you lose some of them to other platforms that aren't like getting counted in?
Yeah, the numbers across the board are down, but
Right.
they're not down 90-something percent. It's like the Super Bowl this year was down. I think it was worse since 96 or 2006 or something. But it still did. I think like
80. Yeah, I think it did less than 100 million, and usually it does around 111. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was down. I read it again off the top of my head. I might be wrong with the number. It was down like 18% from the previous year. So 18%, 20%.
Oh yeah, 20% of 100 million would get you down to 80. 110 says at 90. You know what I mean?
Bingo.
I'm right about the same place.
Yeah, so it's clearly the industry is trending in the wrong direction. I think part
It's
of
ebbs and flows also, dude. And are we at how far? If we're at an ebb right now, we're how far into it are we? Do you think?
Well, it's been going on for 20 years.
Well, no,
So
it always fires back up a little bit.
Yeah,
Didn't
it
it like
does.
5 years ago?
Oh,
I don't know in my head, you know me and number and
all I know
years.
is the last I dug into the ratings, I think it was, which was like 2 years ago. At that point, for 20 years, the WWE, which is the industry for the most part of the last 20 years, every subsequent year the ratings were lower. Now, what sliver of that was going to other platforms or whatever, it remains to be seen. But again, over 20 years, seeing now a 95+% drop in the viewership is not a good positive thing, I think.
You're totally fucking moron.
But
Oh my god, I had no idea it was that bad right now.
yeah. And when the fans look back, especially the chunk of those that have left, that 48 million or so that have left, that when they look back, what's the last thing they remember as being good? ECW.
Oh, that's a good point. So if you're like all these guys, I don't know who they are. Like I want to say like an AEW, a TNA, a Vince, and how many of the shows he has. Can you see every one of them be streamed somewhere else besides having just watching on TV?
Yes.
And on multiple platforms.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All over the planet.
Yeah, that's ubiquitous now. Sure. And if any of them aren't doing that, like I know NWA, I shouldn't say I know. My understanding is the NWA is on YouTube, but then that would be streamed, right? So like if you were in Singapore, you could get on there and see NWA through YouTube. The technology stuff for again, old farts like us blind blows. The first time I went to a virtual signing, I'm sitting there and there's people there from Australia and Japan and Saudi Arabia and Europe. And
I know, I love asking everybody. I just say, you tell me where you're from. Let me hear where the fuck you're from.
And,
have I been there?
You're sitting in this chair right here in, bumfuck West Virginia, right? And you're talking to people in real time, right now, around the planet. Like, the guys who come from where we're, it's insane.
And it's only going to get worse because now they're putting them blimps all over. They're putting these fucking blimps all over fucking Africa, all over everywhere, and the blimp is going to stay up there, and that's going to give everybody their Wi-Fi, so they don't have to put any hardwire wires in or fucking anything, dude. It's all going to be on a fucking blimp now.
Well, imagine this. Technology. They say it takes half as much time each subsequent time for technology to double. So 1,000 years, 500.
Yeah, but we're moving at light speed. Every couple years, our storage power gets so much bigger.
My great grandmother was born in the 1880s. She went literally from gas, lamps and things to electricity to cars. To
The Industrial Revolution.
And space flight, right? I'm thinking, man, nobody's ever going to see a bigger stretch than that. Now you look at our life, right? We go from this to where, like, literally Star Trek stuff to me.
And then,
Me sitting in this
what
chair.
about our kids? Our kids, dude, they're 3D printing fucking kidneys
Right.
now and shit, dude. There'll be utility belts that they wear if you need dialysis. You'll have like a Batman utility belt, dude. If you're young right now, you got a chance to be live like 150. They say the first 150-year-old kid is on this planet right now.
No kidding.
That's how fast we're moving at light speed. Fucking with technology and 3D printing shit.
Yeah.
You just can't do the heart yet because we haven't figured out making it to be.
The artificial intelligence. But there's a scary aspect to that too.
I'm
right?
sure.
I mean, like,
It's going to turn.
we grew up watching like Terminator, right, where the machines took over the world. You think, okay, that's crazy, and then now you start hearing this stuff about AI and how it's being sort of seamlessly put in, and at what point will the machines go, okay, we don't need these bastards around anymore?
It can't take long. I mean, fuck.
And I think it's a perfect place. Scotty, beam us up. See you next time. Thank you.
Peace.